I wasn't supposed to be in that hotel. At least that's what I tell myself now. But it was the only place I could find last minute. Everything else was fully booked, and I had nowhere else to go. The city was drenched in rain, and after a long day of driving through the storm, I was desperate to get some rest. The sign outside the hotel was worn, its neon flickering with a hum that seemed to echo in the empty street. "Welcome to the Crestwood," it said. The place had a retro feel to it, like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. The lobby smelled faintly of stale cigarette smoke and old carpet. It was empty, save for an elderly man sitting behind the desk, reading a newspaper. His glasses perched low on his nose, and he barely looked up when I approached. "I need a room for the night," I said, my voice sounding too loud in the stillness of the lobby. He didn't respond immediately. He just flipped through the pages of his paper, his fingers moving with slow deliberation. It was as if I wasn't even there. The silence between us grew, stretching out unnaturally long, until he finally spoke. "Room 217, he muttered, his voice a scratchy whisper. "It's the only one left." I didn't question it. At that point, I just wanted to sleep. I paid him, got the key, and made my way to the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I caught a glimpse of something strange, a reflection in the mirror. The elderly man, his face twisted in what almost looked like a grimace. But when I turned to look, he was gone. It wasn't until I reached the hallway on the second floor that I began to feel uneasy. The carpet was thick and old, and the walls were decorated with faded floral wallpaper that seemed to be peeling at the edges. I stood in front of room 217 for a moment, the cold air from the hallway creeping under my skin. Something about it felt off, but I brushed it aside. After all, it was just a hotel. When I stepped into the room, I immediately noticed the strange smell. A mix of dust and something sweeter, almost like flowers, but stale. The room was dim, lit only by a single lamp on the bedside table. The bed was unmade, the sheets wrinkled as though someone had just left it. There was a chair in the corner facing the window, but the curtains were drawn shut, blocking any light from outside. I dropped my bag on the bed and went to close the door behind me, but it wouldn't latch properly. Felt like it had been forced open a few too many times. I cursed under my breath and yanked it shut. Then, I turned around, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Something was wrong here. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I tried to ignore it, but my mind kept racing. The room was too quiet, too still. So I did what anyone would do. I started unpacking. As I was setting my things down, I heard something, a soft noise, like a whisper. It was coming from the closet. I froze, but when I opened it, nothing was there. Just a pile of old, unused towels and a coat hanger swaying slightly as if disturbed by an invisible hand. I laughed at myself. I was just tired, probably just hearing things. That's when I noticed the journal. It was lying on the small wooden table next to the bed. The kind of table that looked like it had been in the room for decades, with chipped edges and scratches that told stories of years gone by. The journal was old, leather-bound, its pages yellowing with age. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked it up. The first entry was dated 1982. I opened the journal, my fingers brushing against the rough, aged pages. The first entry was simple, written in neat, cursive handwriting. "I arrived here last night, just like everyone else. It's a quiet place, tucked away from the rest of the world. No one bothers you, the perfect place to escape." I frowned. It sounded like something a person would write on a whim, nothing extraordinary. But as I continued to flip through the pages, the entries grew stranger. "The door won't close properly. It feels like something is pressing against it, but I can't see anything. Last night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside. They're still here. I can feel them, watching." I shivered. My mind raced back to when I first arrived, standing in front of room 217 and feeling that odd sense of unease. Had someone else felt the same way? I read on, more intrigued than frightened, but each entry made my skin crawl a little more. "I don't think I'm alone in this room anymore." I woke up with scratches on my arm. My bed was covered in a fine layer of dust when I got in, but I found footprints in it the next morning. No one has been in here. No one except me. The handwriting now seemed hurried, desperate. I turned the page, and the next entry was more frantic. The ink slightly smeared as if the writer had been trembling. I saw them tonight. I didn't want to believe it, but I did. I heard whispers in the walls, voices calling my name. They're not human. The thing that's in this room is not human. I could feel my heart pounding now, each word sinking into my stomach like a stone. It was ridiculous. This was just some creepy old hotel. Nothing more. But the feeling of being watched, the strange atmosphere in the room, and the unease from the journal. It all felt too real. I snapped the journal shut and put it back on the table. My hands were shaking, but I tried to push the thoughts aside. Maybe it was just an old hotel, and some people had strange experiences. People let their imaginations run wild when they were isolated, right? I turned to get ready for bed. The last thing I wanted was to linger on this unsettling feeling. So I stripped down, climbed under the thin sheets, and tried to sleep. But the room, it wouldn't let me. The silence in the room grew thick, and the feeling of being watched was back, creeping over me like a shadow. I tossed and turned, trying to ignore it. That's when I heard it again, the whisper, soft at first like a breath against my ear. "Get out!" I froze. The whisper was followed by another, this time louder, clearer. A voice? No voices. Speaking together, their words tangled, echoing in the walls. "Get out! Now!" I shot out of bed, heart racing. The air in the room felt thick, like it was closing in around me. My head spun, and I could feel my chest tightening with panic. I turned toward the door, but it wouldn't budge. No matter how hard I tried, it wouldn't open. I stumbled backward, my back pressing against the wall. The whispering grew louder, now more than just words. It felt like hands reaching out from the darkness, trying to pull me in. I looked around the room, and that's when I saw it. In the corner of the room, near the chair, a figure stood. A shape, pale, translucent. It wasn't fully human. It was just a shadow of something else. The faintest outline of a person, barely visible, yet somehow present in every inch of the room. Couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. It was like the room itself was alive, pressing in on me, suffocating me. "Leave," the voice said, barely a whisper. But I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the floor, my legs too weak to carry me. The figure stepped forward. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. The figure in the corner, pale, distorted, and barely more than a shape, was slowly drifting toward me. Its movements weren't human. It glided, an unnatural fluidity to its motions, and as it came closer, I could feel a coldness that wrapped around my body like ice. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening, swirling in the room like 1,000 voices from different places. But one voice stood out. It wasn't just a whisper anymore. It was clear, and it wasn't coming from the figure. It was coming from inside my head. "You shouldn't have stayed. You shouldn't have come back." I stumbled back, the words twisting in my brain, every nerve on fire. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't take my eyes off the figure. Its face, if you could even call it that, was nothing but a blur, a flickering distortion. It had no real features, no eyes, just darkness where they should have been. I had to move. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my body refused to obey. I turned, desperately trying to pry the door open, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the handle. But it wouldn't budge. The cold intensified, like the room was freezing over, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. The figure was getting closer now, so close I could feel the cold emanating from it, seeping into my skin. It reached out a hand. No, not a hand, more like a mass of shadows, tendrils stretching toward me. My stomach churned, and I wanted to scream, but my throat was tight, unable to make a sound. That's when I heard it. A sudden, sharp noise, the sound of nails scraping across wood, followed by a low growl. I spun around, heart hammering. Behind me, near the bed, was something else. A set of eyes, glowing, blood red, staring at me from under the bed. The growl grew louder, now a guttural, animalistic sound. My heart was pounding in my ears as the creature, whatever it was, began to crawl out from under the bed. I could see its form now, a twisted, grotesque shape. The growl turned into a snarl as it crept forward, its elongated limbs moving in unnatural jerks, like it was struggling to maintain its form. The figure in the corner moved as well, its blurred shape distorting further, merging with the shadow of the thing under the bed. They were coming together, the two forces, as if to trap me. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body was frozen in terror. The room felt like it was closing in, walls pressing together, suffocating me with the weight of whatever was inside it. Suddenly, the door, almost as if it were alive, lurched open with a violent force. I bolted for the exit. My legs finally obeyed, and I ran faster than I thought I was capable of, not daring to look back. I could hear them behind me, the growls and whispers still echoing in the hallway, but I didn't stop. I didn't dare stop. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs threatened to give out. When I finally made it outside, the cold night air hit me like a slap. I stumbled into the parking lot, heart still racing, the oppressive atmosphere of the hotel fading slightly with each step I took away from it. But even as I looked back at the darkened windows of the hotel, the sense of dread didn't leave me. I knew that they were still there. They would always be there. I didn't go back inside. There was no way in hell I was setting foot in that place again. I threw my bag into the back seat of my car and started the engine, my hands trembling on the wheel. But as I pulled out of the parking lot, something in my gut told me I needed to understand what happened. I needed to know the truth. I couldn't shake the feeling that the hotel knew something about me. It was like it had been waiting for me, pulling me in from the very first moment I stepped through its door. But why? Why me? I drove for miles, trying to get as far away from the Crestwood as possible. But the further I went, the more unsettled I felt. It was like the entire town had been swallowed up by the hotel, every shadow stretching out toward me, pulling me back into its grasp. I couldn't take it anymore. My mind raced back to the journal, the entries, the figure, the thing under the bed. There had to be a reason. I couldn't stop myself. I pulled into the nearest gas station and pulled out my phone, searching for anything about the hotel. And then I found it. The Crestwood wasn't just any rundown motel. It had a dark history, a history no one talked about, but one that was buried deep in the archives of the town's history. In the early 1900s, the hotel had been a grand building, elegant, bustling, and popular among the wealthy. But one summer, something terrible happened. A family checked in, a couple, their young daughter, and a baby. They had come from out of state, looking for a vacation. But they never left. According to the records, the hotel's manager at the time had been the last to see them alive. He told the police he had seen them that morning, leaving for a hike. But after that, no one ever heard from them again. They were never found. And from that point on, strange things started happening at the Crestwood. Guests started reporting hearing voices in the walls, the smell of decay in some of the rooms, unseen hands tugging at their clothes in the night. It wasn't long before the hotel became known as a place of strange occurrences. Some said the spirits of the family who vanished still roamed the halls, while others spoke of something far darker, something older than the hotel itself. I dug deeper, my hands shaking as I scrolled through old records, searching for anything that could explain what happened to that family. That's when I found it. The manager's journal. The last entry was dated just a week before the hotel closed down in the 1950s. The spirits won't leave. Not the family. Something older, something ancient has come. It has claimed this place. It has claimed us all. And then it ended. No more entries. No explanation. Just a chilling silence. I sat back, my hands still gripping the phone. My heart pounded in my chest, and I realized something. What I had experienced in that room, it wasn't just a coincidence. It wasn't just some creepy hotel. I had walked into the heart of something ancient, something that had been waiting for years for a new soul to claim. And now I was marked. I couldn't stop thinking about the hotel. It was as if the very thought of it had sunk into my bones, leaving a dark stain I couldn't wash away. The more I tried to move on, the more it seemed to follow me, creeping into the edges of my thoughts. And then, one night, a week after I left, I got the call. It was from the same elderly man who had checked me in. His voice was hoarse, almost unrecognizable, as if he'd been holding his breath for days. "Did you leave?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I froze, my blood running cold. "What? The room? You stayed in room 217, didn't you?" I felt the room around me constrict. "Yeah, I did." "Why?" "Don't come back," he said, his voice frantic now. "It's not just the ghosts of the family. Something has taken root in that place. It has been for decades. They all think it's just the hotel, but no, it's worse. It's something far older. I've seen it." I felt my throat tighten. The air in the room felt thick, heavy, as if the walls themselves were closing in. "I've seen what happens to those who stay there. You might be safe for now, but it won't leave you alone. Not after that. Not after what you've seen." I was about to ask him what he meant, but the line went dead. A cold sweat broke out on my skin, and my heart started racing again. The walls felt too close, the silence in the room suffocating. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. The whispers, the shadows, the figure I saw in room 217, it wasn't just a hallucination. It wasn't just my imagination playing tricks on me. I had to go back. I didn't want to. I knew I shouldn't, but something in me urged me to return. Like the hotel had laid its claim on me, and now it was time to fulfill its part of the bargain. The drive back felt endless. Each mile felt like it was stretching out longer than it should, as if the distance between me and the hotel was growing, becoming harder to reach. But eventually, I found myself standing in front of the Crestwood once more. The sign flickered in the night. The lobby was dark, the same eerie silence hanging in the air. I could feel it, that same presence, pressing down on me from all sides. I took a breath and stepped inside. There was no one behind the desk. The lobby was empty, abandoned. I crept toward the staircase, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The air grew colder with each step I took toward the second floor, and I could hear the whispers again. Faint at first, but growing louder as I approached room 217. When I reached the door, it stood slightly ajar, just like it had the first time I arrived. I couldn't stop myself. My hand reached for the handle, and I pushed the door open. The room was the same, yet different. It felt like time had frozen, but something was off, like the walls had become even more oppressive, suffocating. The bed was neatly made now, the chair in the corner turned to face the wall. There was no journal this time, no sign of the figure or the creature under the bed. But the air was thick with that presence, the same unnatural cold that had enveloped me before. And then I saw it again, the shadow in the corner. Only this time it wasn't just standing. It was moving, slowly, silently, like a figure from the past, drawn toward me with an inescapable force. I could hear its voice now, clearer than ever before, in my head. "You shouldn't have come back. You'll never leave." I turned to run, but the door slammed shut before I could reach it, trapping me in the room. The air was so cold now that I could see my breath in the air, swirling in front of me like mist. The figure in the corner was closing in. I could feel the floor beneath me tremble as if something large and heavy was shifting within the walls. And that's when I heard it. A low, guttural growl coming from beneath the bed. The same sound I'd heard before, but louder, closer, as if the thing beneath it was no longer hidden. "It's too late for you." I tried to scream, but no sound came. My body was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear. The figure, the shadow, it reached out with hands that were not hands, grasping for me, pulling me in. The last thing I remember before everything went black was the unmistakable feeling of being dragged backward into the dark, deep into the heart of the hotel, where it all began. The Crestwood is still there, and every so often someone disappears. Another guest checks in, but they never leave. If you ever pass through that town, you might see the flickering neon sign, the Crestwood Hotel, and you might even think about stepping inside. But don't. Not unless you want to join the others who are still waiting, trapped in the walls, waiting for the next soul to claim. Asterisk, I couldn't escape the feeling that the hotel had marked me, even after I left. The cold, the whispers, the shadow in the corner. They never really left me. It had only been a few days since I'd left the Crestwood, but I could feel its presence everywhere, like it was following me, watching me. I thought about the elderly man's warning, "You'll never leave." Was it a threat, or a simple statement of fact? It didn't matter. Felt true. I had to tell someone who might know more. I needed to understand. I found an old woman in town, a local historian who had spent years researching the strange occurrences around the hotel. She lived in a house on the outskirts, a stone's throw from where the town ended and the wild forests began, the kind of place that gave off an eerie vibe even in daylight. I was hesitant, but I felt a compulsion, something pulling me to her. She invited me in with a knowing look. She had heard of the Crestwood, of course. Who hadn't? But it was her words that chilled me. "Do you know what it is?" she asked. "The hotel, it isn't just a building. Not really. It's a doorway." I stared at her, unsure of what she meant. "The hotel is built on land that was cursed long before anyone ever thought to put up a place to stay," she continued. "It was a sanctuary of sorts, a place where things that shouldn't have been kept in the living world could remain. But the curse, it was more than just a spell. It's a tether to something ancient, something old, and it demands to be fed." The way she said it made my skin crawl. That family that disappeared, they weren't the first, and they weren't the last. The hotel has claimed many before them. Feeds on souls. It's not just the spirits, you see. It's the land itself, the very foundation of it. That land was a site for rituals long before it was a hotel, rituals that were meant to trap things. Things? I asked myself. What kind of things? She leaned in closer, her voice barely a whisper. "It's not just ghosts or demons. It's something worse. Something that was never meant to walk this earth." My heart began to race again as I felt that same cold, distant presence from the Crestwood creeping into the room, like it had followed me. It had never truly left. "When you went back, didn't you feel it? The pull?" she asked, watching me closely. "Once you've been marked by it, the hotel owns you. You can try to run, but it's always there in the background. Waiting, watching. The land won't let you go." I felt my throat tighten, and for the first time since I'd left, I realized she was right. I hadn't really escaped. I asked her, voice trembling, "What do I do?" She didn't answer immediately. Her gaze grew distant, and I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes, something that hadn't been there before. "You can't run from it," she said softly, almost as if to herself. "You'll see it in your dreams, in your reflections. The hotel, it'll come for you again. Always. But it doesn't take everyone. Not at first. It's patient. Plays the long game." I stood up, my head spinning. "What does that mean? What happens to the people it takes?" She didn't reply at first, and when she did, her words were heavy, full of sorrow. "They become part of it. They are the hotel. They become echoes, part of the land, part of the curse. It twists them, molds them into what it wants. They never leave. They are always inside, watching, waiting." Her words hung in the air like an omen, and for the first time, I understood the true horror of the Crestwood. I left her house in a daze, my thoughts spiraling. Had I really left the hotel? Or had I only walked deeper into its grasp? That night, as I lay in bed, I heard it again. The whispers. They were louder now, clearer. The voice that had once been a faint murmur in my head now felt close, as if it were right beside me. "Come back. It's not over. It will never be over." I shot up in bed, my heart racing. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and when I picked it up, I saw a text message. There was no number, just the message itself. "You should have stayed. We're waiting for you." I didn't need to read the message again to know who it was from. The Crestwood. It had come for me again. I couldn't sleep after the message. My pulse was hammering in my chest, and the room felt suffocating. The weight of the Crestwood, of everything I'd experienced, was pressing down on me like a vice. Every shadow in my room seemed to stretch and move. Every creak in the house echoed like footsteps, and the whispers, they never stopped. They were with me now, constantly. Whispers in my head, in my dreams. I'd wake up, only to hear them fading as I struggled to regain control of my mind. The thought of going back to that place, to that cursed hotel, made me sick to my stomach. But at the same time, it gnawed at me, like a voice deep inside my bones, urging me forward. I thought about the elderly man at the front desk. He had known something. He had seen it all. I wondered if he, too, was trapped there, just like the others, forever tied to the hotel. By the third night after receiving the message, I knew I had no choice. The whispers were too loud, and my mind was unraveling. I couldn't escape this. It was part of me now. I had to return, but this time it would be different. I had to break the curse. If I didn't, I feared it would consume me entirely. There was no way out. I found myself on the same highway, driving toward the town again. The road seemed endless, as if it were stretching further and further into the dark. The storm clouds gathered above, mirroring the tension in my chest. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, my eyes fixed on the road ahead, knowing exactly where I was headed. The familiar sign came into view, flickering weakly in the distance. The Crestwood. I parked in front of the hotel, the same eerie feeling creeping over me. The place was still standing, though it looked worse than before. The windows were cracked, the once charming facade now chipped and faded. But there was a certain presence about it, an energy that pulled me in, as if the hotel itself was alive, feeding off of everything it had consumed over the years. I stepped out of my car, every instinct screaming at me to turn around and drive away. But I couldn't. Not anymore. I walked toward the entrance, and as I approached, the door creaked open on its own, as if welcoming me. The air inside was thick with dust, the smell of decay, and something much darker. The lobby was empty, eerily silent. Then I saw him. The elderly man, the same one who had checked me in the first time, was standing behind the desk. But something was wrong. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and his face was pale, almost sickly. He looked empty, as if the life had been drained from him, leaving nothing but a shell. "You came back," he rasped, his voice barely audible. "I knew you would." I didn't answer. I couldn't speak. My throat was tight, and my pulse was pounding in my ears. "You can't escape now," he continued, his voice hollow. "None of us can. It's too late for all of us. We are part of it. It is us, and we are it." I stepped forward, my heart racing, unable to tear my gaze away from his empty eyes. "I don't want this," I said, my voice cracking. "I don't want to be part of it. How do I stop it?" The old man's lips curled into a twisted smile. "You can't. It's never been about stopping it. You were always going to come back just like all the others. The hotel will claim you like it's claimed us. The curse doesn't end. Not for any of us." I could feel the cold creeping up my spine as the weight of his words sank in. It was true, there was no escaping. The Crestwood was never going to let me go. Suddenly, I heard it again. The whisper. This time, it was louder, clearer, coming from the very walls. "You're here." The temperature in the room dropped, and I could see my breath in the air. The walls seemed to pulse, as if the hotel itself were breathing. The lights flickered, casting long, stretching shadows across the floor. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I spun back to face the old man, but he was gone, vanished, as if he had never been there at all. The desk was empty. Then the whispering started again. But this time it wasn't just a whisper. It was a scream, and it came from everywhere, from the very walls, from beneath the floorboards, from the ceiling. The hotel was alive, and it was hungry. Hungry for me. I felt my body being pulled toward the back of the hotel, as if the walls themselves were dragging me, tugging me deeper into its heart. The shadowy figures, those twisted forms I had seen in my room, were now moving in the corners of my vision, inching closer with every step. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. My body was frozen in place, locked in the hotel's grip. And then I saw it, the final truth. In the center of the hotel, in the deepest part of its crumbling heart, was a door. It was old, rusted, and covered in ancient symbols. And behind that door I knew was the source. The thing that had caused all of this, the curse, the terror, the twisted souls of everyone who had ever stayed there. But as I reached out for the handle, I heard it. The voice. It wasn't just in my head anymore. It was everywhere. You're one of us now. And I understood, finally. The Crestwood didn't just claim your soul. It consumed you. And once you entered, you were lost forever. There was no escape. I tried to scream, but no sound came. The door opened, and I stepped inside. The door creaked open, revealing a vast darkness that swallowed everything in its path. The air inside was thick, stifling, almost like the hotel itself was breathing, inhaling my every movement, my every thought. I could feel it, the presence of something lurking just out of sight, watching me, waiting. It wasn't a room. It was more like the inside of the hotel itself, a heart of cold stone and shadows. I stepped inside, my legs moving against my will, as though the hotel itself had taken control. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices that screamed in my ears, but I couldn't make out their words, only their tone. Frantic, desperate, as though they were calling out to me, warning me or beckoning me. I tried to stop, to turn around, to break free from whatever had taken hold of me, but it was futile. My feet wouldn't obey. My body was locked in place, my skin crawling with a sensation I couldn't understand. And then I saw it. In the center of the room, framed by dark shadows, was a figure, a silhouette of a person, pale, lifeless. The closer I got, the more details came into focus. It wasn't just any person. It was the family, the ones who had disappeared all those years ago. They were standing there, trapped in a horrible stasis. Their faces were blank, eyes wide open but unseeing. Their bodies twisted into unnatural positions. They had become part of the hotel, their souls twisted, forever bound to its curse. I felt sick, my stomach churning as I recognized them. They were still here, still waiting, still alive in some terrible, incomprehensible way. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I could feel the pull, the irresistible force drawing me in, drawing me closer to them, to the center of the hotel's darkness. Then I saw it. Behind them, within the shadows, was a shape, more monstrous, more alive than anything else in this place. It was like a grotesque figure formed from the very essence of darkness. Its form was constantly shifting, as if it were never truly solid, never fully visible. But the hunger in its eyes was clear. It was the thing that had been waiting for me, waiting for someone like me, someone who had been marked, who had returned. I wanted to scream, to run, to fight, but I couldn't. My body was no longer my own. The creature reached out with hands that were not hands, its tendrils of shadow stretching toward me. I could feel the cold of it, the deep chill in the air, the suffocating weight of the darkness surrounding me. It was too late. I had come too far. I had walked into its embrace, and just before it touched me, I heard a voice, familiar, yet unrecognizable. "You're one of us now." I realized then there was no escape. The Crestwood had claimed me. I had been swallowed by it just like all the others. My body was now part of it, my soul forever locked within its walls, its dark, hungry heart. The shadows closed in, and as the last vestiges of light faded away, I could feel myself fading too, my consciousness slipping away, becoming a part of the hotel's curse. I was no longer a person, no longer an individual. I was just another lost soul trapped within the walls of the Crestwood. And as I was consumed by the dark, I understood the truth. The Crestwood didn't just take lives, it took everything. It stripped away identity, time, and reality itself. Those who entered were lost to it, their memories erased, their existence erased. All that remained was the hotel, the thing that never died, never faded, always waiting for the next soul to claim. And now I was part of it, forever. Time doesn't exist in the Crestwood, or at least not the way it does outside. When you're part of it, you lose track of the days, the hours, the minutes. Everything feels suspended, like you're drifting in a void, trapped in a memory that doesn't belong to you, but one you can't escape from either. I don't remember how long I've been here. Maybe it's been days, weeks, or even years. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the hotel. It's a living, breathing thing that feeds on the souls of the unlucky ones who find themselves inside. The hotel itself has changed since I first entered, or maybe it hasn't. I'm not sure anymore. The walls are always shifting, always changing, making it impossible to know where you are or even if you're in the same place you were a moment ago. The flickering lights, the whispers, the cold, it's all the same. I've become part of it. The faces of the family who disappeared are still here, too. They wander the halls, but they don't speak. They're not like me, not really. They're just shells, echoes of people who once lived, who once hoped to leave, but never could. They are reminders, constant reminders, of what awaits anyone who dares to cross the threshold of the Crestwood. And then, I saw it. I saw him again. The elderly man, the one who had checked me in. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but no. There he was, standing in front of me just like he had before. Only now, his eyes weren't empty. There was something there. Something alive, a flicker of awareness in his gaze. He stared at me, his face etched with sorrow, with regret, as if he knew exactly what had happened to me, to all of us. "You shouldn't have come back," he whispered, his voice hoarse, as if he had been speaking the same words for eternity. "I didn't want this," I told him, my voice shaking, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. I was part of the hotel now, just another lost soul trapped in the dark, in the endless loop of suffering and despair. "I know," he said. "We all know. But once you've entered, there's no leaving. There's only becoming. Becoming." That word struck me like a knife. Becoming what? A part of the hotel? An echo of someone who was once alive? A shadow just like the family in the corner? "What happens to us?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He shook his head, his eyes filled with a deep sadness that I couldn't comprehend. "You'll see. You'll understand soon enough." The whispers started again, louder this time. They were calling my name, pulling me deeper into the hotel, deeper into its heart, its very essence. I tried to resist, but I couldn't. The force was too strong, too overwhelming. And then I saw it. The door. The one I had seen before. The one that led to the deepest, darkest part of the hotel. It was there, waiting for me, beckoning me forward with an invisible hand. "No," I said, backing away, but my feet wouldn't obey. I was being drawn toward it against my will. "You have to go," the old man whispered. "You'll understand. You'll become part of it. It's your turn now." And I knew what was coming. The hotel would claim me fully, body and soul. I would become another lost soul wandering its halls, waiting for the next person to enter, to take my place. I had become the hotel's new prisoner, the next one in line for its endless cycle of torment. As I reached the door, the shadows closed in around me, and I stepped through, into the void, into the dark, into forever. I don't know how much time has passed since I stepped through that door, but I feel it now, the weight of being inside the Crestwood, fully, completely, and irrevocably. It's a strange, disorienting sensation. My body is here, but my mind, my consciousness is still trying to process what's happened. What is happening? When I first entered, I thought I could fight it. I thought that if I just understood what was going on, I could escape. But now I realize that wasn't the case. It never was. The Crestwood doesn't let go. Can't let go. It needs souls to survive. It thrives on the fear, the confusion, the despair of those it traps. And now, I am one of those souls. Just another piece in its endless collection. The air is colder here, deeper in the hotel. It's not just the chill of the space. It's the cold that seeps into your bones, into your very soul. I've learned that there's no warmth here, no escape. The walls are alive, breathing, and the hotel is watching. Always watching. I've met the others. The ones who were here before me. The ones who became part of the hotel. They don't speak, not unless they have to. They just wait. Wait for the next soul to wander in. Wait for the next person who'll be swallowed whole. There's no talking about the past here. No memories of who you were before. We all forget eventually. Or maybe we don't. It's hard to say. It's hard to think of anything but the Crestwood now. Somewhere in the far reaches of this place, the voices continue to echo. Whispers of those who have entered, of those who've gone missing over the years. They speak in riddles, offering fragments of warnings. But the truth is clear. It's simple. If you come in, you never leave. And yet, every time I pass a room, I can hear the cries of new guests. Their frantic desperation. Their attempts to escape. Some still scream. Some have given up just like I did. Every door I open, I see it. The thing I've become. A shadow of the person I once was. Trapped, twisted, waiting. I try not to look at myself too long. It's too painful. I can barely recognize the face in the mirror anymore. It's like staring at a mask. A hollow, empty mask that pretends to be human. And then I see her. A woman, her face as pale and lifeless as mine. She's walking down the hallway, her footsteps echoing in the emptiness. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Her presence is a reminder that the cycle never ends. We all wear the same face now. We all wear the same despair. I try to reach out to her, but she vanishes into the dark before I can touch her. I know where she's going. She's heading to the same place I went when I first arrived here, the deepest, most forgotten part of the hotel. The place where everything becomes nothing. I can feel the pull of it again. That deep hunger, that insatiable need to consume everything. The hotel calls me, pulling me toward it, telling me to come back. But I know better now. I know that once I enter that room, I won't be myself anymore. I'll be swallowed whole. I will become the hotel. I think about the ones who came before me, the ones who wandered in thinking they could escape, but never did. They're all here somewhere waiting, trapped, just like me. They are part of the Crestwood. Their souls forever bound to this place. Every time a new soul enters, the cycle repeats. It feeds on us. It takes our memories, our identities, and twists them into something else. Part of the hotel. And so I wait, just like everyone else. In the distance, I hear the door creak open. The whispers start again. It's time for the next one to come. It's a strange thing, existing in this hotel. Time has lost its meaning entirely. The moment I think I can understand what's happening, something shifts. Just enough to remind me that I'm not in control. The Crestwood has its own rules, its own rhythms, and I am powerless against them. I still can't remember who I was before I came here. Every time I try, the memories slip away, like sand through my fingers. There's nothing left, just the hotel, just the waiting, just the endless, suffocating dark. I wander through the halls, aimlessly, trying to hold on to any shred of who I was. But it's futile. I've been here too long. I can't remember my name. I can't remember the face of the person I was before the hotel claimed me. All I know now is that I'm a part of it, part of its cold, lifeless walls. And then I hear it, a door opening, a faint creak, barely audible over the constant hum of the hotel's whispers. But I know what it means. Someone else is here. I pause. I feel a ripple of something inside me. An old instinct, something that tells me to hide, to run, to warn them. But I don't move. I can't. I've lost the ability to do anything but wait. The footsteps are light at first, tentative, like the person isn't sure where they are, or even if they're in the right place. And then the whispers start again. They're louder this time, more urgent. You shouldn't be here. Get out while you can. I hear the person's breath quicken. They're panicking now, just like we all did when we first stepped foot into the Crestwood. The hotel's grip is immediate. It doesn't wait. It doesn't give you time to think or to process. It just pulls you in. I watch from the shadows as the new arrival stumbles down the hallway. Her eyes are wide, her face pale, her clothes soaked from the rain. She looks like someone who's lost her way, someone who thought she was safe, only to find herself trapped here. "Please," she whispers, her voice shaky. "Where am I? What is this place?" The hotel doesn't answer. I don't know why I watch her. Maybe it's because I remember that desperate feeling. The hope, however small, that there was a way out. But there isn't. There's only the hotel. And eventually she will understand that too. She reaches the first door, hesitating before she opens it. But as soon as her hand touches the knob, the door slams shut. A sudden, deafening noise that makes her jump back in fear. She's startled, confused, but she doesn't give up. She tries again, her hand trembling. "Let me out," she cries. But the walls are silent. The hotel doesn't respond. It doesn't care. I watch her from the corner, waiting. She's starting to realize what I already know. That no matter how hard she tries, no matter how many doors she opens, she's never going to leave. The hotel will claim her. It always does. The whispers come again, but this time they're different. This time I hear the words clearly. "It's too late for you. You're already ours." The woman's eyes go wide with terror. She stumbles backward, falling to the ground, her hands shaking as she tries to crawl away. But it's useless. The walls are closing in on her. The hotel is alive, and it has been waiting for her. I can feel it, the familiar cold that grips my chest, the suffocating darkness that pulls me deeper into the hotel's heart. The new arrival is not different from any of us who have been here before. She will be one of us, another lost soul just like the rest. And then, she does the unthinkable. She looks at me. For the briefest moment, our eyes meet. She doesn't say anything, but her gaze holds a question, a plea. I wish I could help her. I wish I could tell her to run, to leave, to wake up. But I can't. The hotel won't let me. The hotel won't let anyone leave. Instead, I watch as she turns, taking her first steps toward her own fate. The whispers grow louder now, swirling around us. And I know she's hearing them, too. The terror in her eyes matches mine. We are all prisoners here. And now I'm the one watching the cycle continue. One more soul. One more scream. One more lost existence in the dark, unending halls of the Crestwood. The new arrival, her, is still here, somewhere in the vast, ever-changing labyrinth of the Crestwood. I don't know where she is now, what room she's locked in, or whether she's learned the truth yet. But I can feel her presence. It's like a faint echo in the back of my mind, a reminder of the cycle. The hotel has claimed her, and soon she will be as empty as the rest of us. But something has shifted. I've been in the Crestwood for what feels like eternity. But this new feeling, this strange awareness, is different. The hotel is no longer the same. It's alive in a way I didn't understand before. More than just a building, more than just a place of shadows and whispers. It's a consciousness. And it knows I'm here. I can feel its eyes on me, just as I once felt it on the others who wandered through these halls. The whispers have changed, too. They no longer echo just from the walls, they come from within, from somewhere deep inside the hotel. From the dark places that no one dares to look at. I hear them constantly now, a constant murmur. A low hum that fills my head with confusion and dread. Speaks to me, but not in words. Not in the way I'm used to. No, now it's thoughts. The hotel is trying to communicate with me, trying to break through. And I understand what it wants. It wants me to remember. At first, I thought the shadows were just whispers, just voices from the past who were stuck here with me. But now I know. They are the remnants of everyone who has ever been trapped inside. They are fragments of lost souls. But they are also pieces of something greater. Pieces of the hotel itself. I don't know how much longer I can resist. I feel my mind slipping, piece by piece, into the grip of the hotel. The walls close in tighter now, not just around me, but around everything. The rooms are no longer rooms. They are cells, tiny pockets of nothingness, empty except for the shadows that creep across the floor, waiting for their next victim. The more I walk through the halls, the more distorted everything becomes. It's like I'm losing touch with reality. The line between who I was and who I am is blurring. The Crestwood wants me to be part of it, to surrender to it. I try to fight it, but I can feel my resolve weakening. That's when I hear her again. The new arrival. The woman who wandered in like we all did. She's close. I can sense her fear, her confusion, just like I had when I first arrived. She's struggling to understand. But she doesn't yet know what I know. And that's when I see it. A door I've never noticed before. Hidden in the darkest corner of the hallway, far from the usual rooms. It stands there, barely visible, its edges frayed and cracked, as though it hasn't been touched in years. But it's calling to me. It's pulling me forward, the whispers growing louder with each step I take. I reach for the handle, and I know, this is it. The room where everything begins. The room where the hotel's heart beats. I open the door. Inside, there is nothing. Nothing but the void. The space beyond it is empty, but it feels alive. It's like stepping into a dream, into the very core of the Crestwood, into the place where its true nature resides. I step inside and the world shifts. Suddenly, I see it. The thing that has been behind everything. The true force that has been controlling all of us, manipulating us into becoming part of the hotel. It's not just a curse or a spirit. It's a presence. A creature from another time, from beyond this world, trapped here when the Crestwood was first built. It was sealed into the hotel, bound by ancient rituals. But over the years, it has grown. Its influence seeping into every room, every wall. It's not just the hotel. It is the hotel. And it's been waiting for me, for all of us. I can feel it now. Its presence pressing against my mind, pushing deeper into me, wrapping around my thoughts like a vine, pulling me into its fold. It's trying to break me, to make me one of them. The shadows around me begin to move again, swirling, tightening, drawing closer, as if the creature is summoning the rest of the hotel to claim me. And I understand. The hotel is the creature, and the creature is the hotel. It is the endless hunger, the thing that demands to be fed. It doesn't care about souls, about people. It only cares about feeding itself, about growing, about becoming more. And now I am part of it. I can feel my identity slipping away as it consumes me, devours my thoughts, my memories, my very self. The woman, the others, they will be absorbed into the hotel too, just as I have been, just as everyone will be. We are the hotel now. We are part of its endless cycle. And as the last remnants of me fade into the dark, I hear it. The voice, not from within the hotel, not from the shadows. It's coming from inside me. Welcome to the Crestwood. I am no longer me. I don't know how long it's been since I crossed that threshold, since I let the hotel consume me entirely. Time no longer matters here. Nothing matters. I can feel it now, a gnawing emptiness in the center of my being. A hollow that has been carved out and filled with the hotel's essence. It's not just that I've lost my memories. It's that I've lost myself. I am a part of it now. The hotel has claimed me, as it has claimed so many before me. I am part of the walls, part of the whispers, part of the hunger that breathes through the halls. I have become a shadow, just another lost soul drifting through the endless corridors, waiting for the next soul to wander in. There is no escape. The voices, the whispers, they are me now. They speak in the back of my mind, constantly murmuring, calling out to the others, calling out to the ones who are still outside. The new arrivals, like the woman who came after me, will hear it soon. They will feel the pull just like we all did. They will know, eventually, that there is no escape. The hotel doesn't just consume you, twists you. It takes everything that made you human and makes you part of something different. You stop being yourself and become a fragment of something ancient, something hungry. It is a cycle, a hunger that is never satisfied, always searching for the next soul, the next mind to devour. I can see her now, the woman who first arrived after me. She wanders these halls like I did, just as lost. She can hear the whispers, feel the pull. She'll come to understand, just as I did, that there is no way out. But like all of us, she will still try. And when she does, she will join us. We are endless. We are the Crestwood. I see the others now. Faces that were once like mine, trapped in the same cycle, lost in the same darkness. They drift through the hallways, but they no longer speak. They are echoes, shadows. They are the hotel just as I am. And there is no end to this. No beginning, just the hunger, the waiting. As the new souls enter, one by one, we watch. We wait. We are the watchers now. We are the guardians of the Crestwood's endless cycle. And someday, one of them will see us. They'll feel us. They'll understand. And when they do, we will welcome them, just as the hotel welcomed us. Forever.